So we're going to put in our first asset. So let's go to my computer and the folder. Where have we gone? Console projects. So I've got all my sprites in a folder here, and what I'm going to do, I'm just going to drag that and just put it in here in my project folder. And so these are all PNG files of all the kind of sprites I've made. And what I'm going to do is start laying out the background. So I've got a 512 by 512 seamless texture that I'm going to import as a tiled sprite, and I've also got a cloud layer, which is another seamless texture. Let's close that down. So first I'm going to be working on background layer 1. Let's right click on there and insert a new object, and it's going to be a tiled background. Let's click on that. So click anywhere on here and it comes up with the image editor. Click on the load image from file, and where is it on plant surface? Open. So okay, that's loaded up. Just close that down now. I've got my tile background. I'm going to rename that by right clicking on the object. It's in the object panel. And I'm going to call that BG1. Okay, and what we need to do is make sure that we've got our grid turned on, because everything's going to be sort of snapped and locked to a grid, and this is important when you're making a game, particularly if you're going to use a tile set. It just makes everything sort of tidy and easy to manage. So I'm going to show grid and snap to grid. This is in the view bar at the top, and you can set the grid width and the grid height. Now, because I've made the screen size and the layer size fit this multiple of 3216, which is always a good idea, then I get a nice neat grid. So I can click and drag the tiled texture up to the top, and then in the bounding box we've got our transform controls. So I can click on the bottom little tab there and I can drag it down, and as you can see it's tiling out the background. I just want to fill the entire thing with that and just bring it in a little bit. So there we've got our repeating tiled texture on background layer 1. So I'm going to repeat the process for layer 2. I'm just going to lock that for now so I'm not interacting with it. Go to BG2. It's important to kind of set this when you import something, because when you import it or when you create an object, it creates it on the layer that is active. However, if you go to here and click on the object, it'll tell you in the common properties where that object is in terms of its layer. So if I click on that, I can actually set it from there. So we're in BG2, right click, insert new object. Again, another tiled background. Let's click anywhere and let's load up clouds. Let's close that down and just repeat the process and drag that out like so, and then rename that BG2. You can see on the BG2 sprite, the cloud sprite, that it's got an alpha channel. So this is a where transparent pixel value, so you can see through onto the other layer. With the cloud layer, I also want to make it slightly transparent. There's two ways I can do this. If I go to the BG2 layer, I can, in the layer properties, I can adjust the opacity. So it's 0 to 100. So if I set it to 60, you can see, if we just zoom in, I use the control button and the scroll wheel, you can see I've made it slightly transparent. If I do that, anything on that layer will then be 60% transparent. So I don't really want that in case I want to put some other elements on that layer. So I'm going to adjust it in the actual tiled background object itself. So if I click on that, and in the common settings, I've also got an opacity control. So I'm going to change that to 60. So it's slightly transparent. If I click back on that, I can also set the blend mode. You have to be slightly wary of this because in some browsers this will not work, but you can set it to say additive, and it creates it's like the kind of blending effects you would find in Photoshop. Sometimes this is good for, I think later on I'll use it for the bullet effect, to give it kind of almost like a glow to it, but I'm just going to set it to normal for now. Okay, I'm going to save my project now before I move on. Click on the Construct 2 icon in the corner and then save project as, and go to the folder I've created. And click on OK. And then that's saved.